Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Jim Ernsten. It is a pleasure to be here today on this crisp winter day, let me call it, and I am co-minister here along with Reverend Lisa Herklotz as well. So welcome to Unity of Charlotte. We welcome you all here in the sanctuary. We welcome you at home on Zoom, and for those who are watching this on YouTube later on, you are welcome as well. Today, let us go ahead and move into our mission statement. This is what informs us of who we are and who we are in the world. So please join me in saying this out loud. Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. So if you are here for the first time, we would love to be able to give you a gentle welcome. So if you're here for the first time, just bravely raise your hand. There we go. A couple of folks here. Yes, welcome. If you haven't already, know that our ushers will hand you a welcome packet, which will give you information about us specifically as Unity of Charlotte, and more generally in Unity as well. So, and know that we have a brand new website out there. You can always get information about who we are on unityofcharlotte.org. We have a newsletter as well. You can use that website to sign up for our newsletter. And you can find Facebook from there as well. We have YouTube with all of our past services that you can take a look at. But most important, I'd like all those here in this service to know that that bulletin board has everything that you need to know in terms of times and places and events. So if you hear of something, if your interest is piqued on something, the information is on that bulletin board and will always be out there. That's the primary. So let us speak together our unity prayer of oneness. So out loud. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God the good, omnipotence. And at this time, we have the opportunity, if there's somebody in your life, a friend, a loved one, a relative, maybe even yourself, who is in need of prayer, we pause at this time and allow you to say that name gently out loud so that we may hold them in sacred space. So say their name now. We acknowledge each of these names, each of these situations, knowing that they're being held in the care, again, of the universe. Amen. Also know that we have a prayer box here. If you would like to drop your name or somebody else's name, the situation in that, we have a prayer team that will pray over that for 30 days. And then after the 30 days, we will package those up and send those to Kansas City and Silent Unity that will pray over them for an additional 30 days. So utilize this prayer box and that prayer team can pray with you. Also know that Silent Unity accepts phone calls and web app and website, and there's about 100 different ways of getting in touch with Silent Unity. Their number is 1-800-NOW-PRAY if you want to utilize that as well. So I want to invite Chris and Mickey up for our daily word reading. Just Chris today, okay?
Sunday, February 4th, joy. Daily word. Joy is mine through all the seasons of life. Throughout my life, joy is always the part of me, like the sun that is always shining even when obscured by the clouds. Joy is there in my happiest moments and also during my darker times. It keeps me present to life as it unfolds, responsive and adaptive, accepting what I can not change, and having the courage to change what I can. Much more than a feeling, joy is a part of me, a way of feeling the presence of God and living from my spirituality. Joy is the anchor that keeps me rooted in peace and wholeness, and the wings that help me soar through the open skies of imagination and choice. My spiritual identity has its foundation in the divine ideal of joy, and all
Thank you. Well, as you may have noticed, we have a couple of little things set up over here because we have a very special service this Sunday. And I am so pleased and honored to be able to introduce you to someone that I am getting to know as a dear friend through the interfaith work that we've been doing, along with someone that you may recognize. She's been here a couple of times, and they are going to be doing our service for us. So let me introduce you to Rabbi Tracy Klirs. She was ordained as a rabbi at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion in Cincinnati in 1984. And I'm guessing they weren't ordaining a lot of women at that time. So I think that was a major milestone. She's held pulpits in both Reform and conservative movements, and enjoyed an extensive career as a Jewish educator, teacher, lecturer, writer, educational consultant, and chaplain throughout the U.S. and Canada. From 2012 to 2018, Rabbi Klirs has served as a director of education and an associated rabbi at the Temple Israel in Charlotte, and subsequently served as a part-time rabbi at Temple Beth Shalom in Danville, Virginia, and as a transitional rabbi of Temple Kol Tikva in Davidson, North Carolina. And one more, just in case she wasn't doing enough, associate Jewish chaplain at the Davidson College. So this is a woman who has had lots of experience and has given herself in so many ways in service. And I am so looking forward to the message she's going to bring to us today. Currently, she's working as a freelance rabbi. I don't think retirement is in her vocabulary. In the greater Charlotte area, she's teaching groups and individuals Hebrew, Yiddish, and other Jewish subjects. She's conducting life cycle events, lecturing, and providing creative programming on Jewish topics. Rabbi Klirs has had a long-time interest in interfaith work, and in the summer of 2013 was selected as the scholar in residence for the Interfaith Institute at Wild Acres Retreat in the Blue Ridge Mountains, which both Reverend Jim and I have had the privilege of attending one of those retreats, and it was an amazing interfaith experience, and actually my connection to Rabbi Klirs. Amongst her volunteer activities is her position on the Professional Advisory Group for Novant's Clinical Pastoral Education Program. She is a co-author of The Merit of Our Mothers, a bilingual anthology of Jewish women's prayers, and has published several articles primarily on Yiddish prayers for women. Rabbi Klirs and her husband Alicia, who is here with her today, have lived in Charlotte since 2012. They have 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. So you will be hearing more from Rabbi Klirs. She's going to be delivering our message along with a couple of musical pieces that she is going to be joined with Shira Firestone, who is our guest musician. Shira, so happy to have you here. Some of you have met Shira and know her. She's been here before, but a little bit about her. She's currently the editor for the Charlotte Jewish News. She moved recently to Charlotte from Seattle. And in Seattle, she has shared her beautiful voice and her love of music as a regular guest singer for Unity of Seattle and Unity of Bellevue. So we are so delighted to have both. Oh, I forgot her juggling. I think there's a unicycle in there too. I'm not sure she's going to perform for us today, but maybe we can get her back another time. We're so delighted to have both of you here. Welcome, welcome. And all of our guests who have come to see them, welcome to you too. Please join with me in welcoming Rabbi Klirs and Shira to our Sunday service. Please give them a round of applause.
Get your help on this one too, okay? So get us ready. So hold on, I'll give a little introduction. So, oh, that's loud. Okay. So, our theme in alliance and with the whole month, the Black History Month, right? It has to do with liberation. It has to do with the Exodus, and you're going to be hearing more about that. But I have chosen for the song that introduces my sermon today, a song called My God Deliver Me. And as you can see, it's from the Jewish community of Zimbabwe. And yes, there are Jewish communities all over the world, including in Africa. But it's about the Exodus. It is something that this community probably sings at Passover time. And we think you'll learn it and jump in with us as soon as you catch it. Yeah, here we go. When they all reached the Red Sea, when God stopped the water, when they all crossed the Red Sea, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, singing God, deliver me. When they all reached the Red Sea, when God stopped the waters, when they all crossed the Red Sea, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, singing God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, singing God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, my God, deliver me, singing God, deliver me, singing God, deliver me, singing God, deliver me. I want to thank Reverend Lisa Herklotz for inviting me to be the guest speaker today, and Unity of Charlotte for welcoming me so warmly. In preparation for today's message, I asked Reverend Lisa, what's on Unity's liturgical calendar? She pointed out that February is Black History Month, but I didn't need to feel constrained by that topic. I responded, to the contrary, I would be very happy to speak on the shared values and ideals emerging from the foundational story of my people and Black history. My topic focused on the Torah's central motif of redemption from slavery, also aligns with the themes that Reverend Lisa and Jim recently shared from this pulpit. Just a few weeks ago, Reverend Jim used the stories of Moses and the Exodus as metaphors for individual spiritual liberation and the metaphysical journey towards our own promised land. And as I told Reverend Lisa, the timing meshes beautifully with the Jewish cycle of scriptural readings. We read a section of the Torah or 5 books of Moses each week during Shabbat or Sabbath services, and right now we're in the middle of the book of Exodus. Over the course of the past 4 Shabbatot or Sabbaths, we have read Exodus through chapter 20, encompassing the well-known stories of the enslavement of the children of Israel in Egypt, the new Pharaoh's campaign of increasing oppression against them, culminating in attempted genocide, the birth of Moses and his unlikely upbringing in Pharaoh's court, Moses' witnessing of the brutal beating of a Hebrew slave, awakening his moral outrage and leading him to kill the taskmaster. Moses' subsequent encounter with God at the burning bush, his appointment as God's spokesperson in the great confrontation with Pharaoh, the 10 plagues, the first Passover, the exodus of the entire host of Israel from Egypt, the miraculous redemption at the sea, the beginning of the long trek through the wilderness, the arrival at Sinai, and the revelation of the 10 Commandments, the linchpin in the newly forged, expanded covenant between God and the children of Israel. Long before this sweeping biblical story became fodder for epic films like the 10 Commandments, it formed the Ur story of the Jewish people. Our enslavement, escape from Egypt, crossing over impassable barriers, forging an eternal covenant with God based on the moral imperatives emerging directly out of our collective experience of subjugation, and our ultimate arrival in the promised land are the bedrock of Jewish identity, history, faith, and practice. As renowned scholar Rabbi Reuven Hammer wrote in Entering Torah, no other event in Jewish or world history plays such a central role in Jewish consciousness and in our theology. Every major biblical festival, including Shabbat, is termed a remembrance of the Exodus from Egypt. Rabbi Hammer goes on to explain that the numerous Jewish practices, rituals, holidays, and daily prayers connected to the Exodus are meant to concretize and perpetuate the memory of the Exodus from Egypt. But deeply embedding the Exodus story into the Jewish collective consciousness is not a sufficient raison d'etre for the continuation of Judaism and the survival of the Jewish people. God's purpose in liberating our ancestors was to forge out of a ragtag band of ex-slaves a people with a deep sense of justice and compassion for the stranger and the vulnerable, all those who are outsiders, marginalized, impoverished, oppressed, or disenfranchised. This imperative is expressed no less than 36 times in the Tanakh, or Hebrew scriptures, as epitomized in Exodus 32:9. You shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the feelings of a stranger, having yourselves been strangers in the land of Egypt. Considering the power of the Exodus story, we should not be surprised that it has served as a source of inspiration, not simply for the Jewish people, but for other enslaved and subjugated peoples as well, especially for the African slaves brought to these shores and their descendants. From the authors of spirituals like Go Down Moses, to leaders of the Underground Railroad like Harriet Tubman, known as the Black Moses, to the many deeply religious abolitionists, both black and white, the Hebrew Bible was their lodestar. For the enslaved and subsequently for the Black church, the texts of the Tanakh played an outsized role in their religious and moral foundation. Most prominently amongst them, the book of Exodus, the Torah's laws of social justice, and the words of the Hebrew prophets who spoke truth to power, demanding that society and its leaders uphold the Torah's core values of justice, righteousness, and compassion. The historically close identification of African Americans with these narratives permeated the life and writings of Dr. Martin Luther King. In Shared Dreams, Martin Luther King and the Jewish Community, author Rabbi Mark Schneier provides a rich compendium of primary sources. I would be remiss if I didn't thank my dear friend, Rabbi Chazan Yaakov Walker, a leader in the Black and Karaite Jewish communities, for introducing me to this seminal work. In his book, Rabbi Schneier quotes from a 1948 essay by famed novelist James Baldwin entitled The Harlem Ghetto. The Negro identifies himself almost wholly with the Jew. The more devout Negro considers that he is a Jew in bondage to the hard taskmaster and waiting for a Moses to lead him out of Egypt. The hymns, the texts, and the most favored legends of the devout Negro are all Old Testament and therefore Jewish in origin. The flight from Egypt, the Hebrew children, the fiery furnace, the terrible Jubilee songs of deliverance, the covenant God made in the beginning with Abraham, and which was to extend to his children and to his children's children forever, is a covenant made with these latter-day exiles also. As Israel was chosen, so are they. And the following excerpt from There Is a Balm in Gilead, The Cultural Roots of Martin Luther King Jr. by Louis V. Baldwin speaks directly to the development of Dr. King's theology. The Bible provided the model for King's prophetic role. His understanding of the prophetic posture largely resulted from his reading of Amos, Micah, Isaiah, Hosea, Jeremiah, and other Old Testament prophets in whose tradition Jesus and the apostles stood. Although King spoke out of a 20th century American orientation, and especially out of the Black experience, his words and actions were in many ways reminiscent of those of the Hebrew prophets. Dr. King and other leaders of the civil rights era also understood that the redemption of the children of Israel from Egypt and their arrival in the land of Canaan was not the final fulfillment of God's promise, but rather a beacon of hope for future redemptions, including both the liberation of oppressed peoples everywhere and the ultimate redemption of the Jewish people through their return to the land of their ancestors. As Dr. King wrote in the summer of 1967, following Israel's victory in the Six-Day War, how easy it should be for anyone who holds dear this inalienable right of all mankind to understand and support the right of the Jewish people to live in their ancestral land of Israel. All men of goodwill exult in the fulfillment of God's promise that his people should return in joy to rebuild their plundered land. Dr. King wrote these words to counter the growing narrative, increasingly embraced by the Black intelligentsia, that Israelis were European colonizers. To understand why this is a false narrative, a brief overview of Jewish history may help. Our remotest ancestors came from the Fertile Crescent, present-day Iraq through Syria, and like other people of the region, were almost certainly darker skinned. Moses' wife Zipporah was a Midianite. The Midianites lived on the western shore of the Arabian Peninsula, across the Gulf of Aqaba from the Sinai Peninsula, and were, of course, like people who live there now, dark-skinned. In fact, later in the book of Exodus, God rebukes Miriam and Aaron for maligning their brother Moses because he married a Cushite woman, meaning Ethiopian or African. Following the Exodus, the Israelites returned to the land of Canaan, where they settled and remained for over a millennium. Yet, the experience of exile is deeply baked into the Jewish story. In the 8th century BCE, as Assyria took over much of the Middle East, some residents of the Kingdom of Israel fled to Egypt, where they built outposts and established trading routes throughout North Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. In 722 BCE, Assyria conquered Israel and deported the remaining population, most of whom disappeared from history, hence the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Then in 586 BCE, the Babylonians conquered the remaining Jewish kingdom of Judah, exiling its leadership and much of its population to Babylon. The exiles from Judah settled in cities throughout the Babylonian Empire. About 50 years later, when Cyrus the Great of Persia conquered Babylonia and permitted the exiles to return to Judah and rebuild their temple, some opted to stay put, spreading throughout the Persian Empire, including present-day Iran, the entire Middle East, North Africa, and even India. In the 1st century BCE, Rome took over Judah, renamed it Judea, and turned it into a Roman colony. Ultimately, in 70 of the Common Era, following the Great Jewish Revolt, Rome destroyed Jerusalem and exiled nearly the entire population of Judea. The exiles fanned out over the Roman Empire, forming a vast diaspora, eventually reaching around the world. Some Jewish communities simply blended in with their neighbors and disappeared, but others steadfastly held on to their Jewish beliefs and practices, even in the face of persecution and expulsion. Amongst the most ancient Jewish communities are those of Yemen and Ethiopia, who claim descent from the earliest exiles of Israel and Judah, and are today physically indistinguishable from their neighbors. Both communities lived for centuries, possibly millennia, isolated from the rest of the Jewish world, experiencing hardship and persecution. Yet they persisted in their faith, never giving up on the dream of returning to their homeland. From the moment the modern state of Israel was founded in 1948, it prioritized the ingathering of the exiles. From 1949 to 1950, nearly the entire remaining population of Yemenite Jews, 49,000 souls, were flown to Israel in Operation Wings of Eagles, named for Exodus 19:4, a verse we read from the Torah in synagogue yesterday. And it says, "You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me." Decades later, in the 80s and 90s, Israel repeated this feat in a series of daring new airlifts to rescue the preponderance, over 80,000 souls of the Beta Yisrael of Ethiopia. Today, over 60% of the 7 million Jews of Israel are Jews of color. Of the Israeli population whose ancestors came from Europe, the majority are descendants of Holocaust survivors or Jews from the former Soviet Union, victims of centuries of suppression and anti-Semitism. Like most Jews, I see Israel as at least a partial fulfillment of the ancient biblical promise of return, a redemption spanning the globe and millennia. Yet, as I have tried to demonstrate in my talk today, the story of oppression, liberation, exile, and ultimate redemption is not merely the story of the Jewish people, or even merely the story of Black Americans. It remains a source of hope and inspiration for oppressed peoples everywhere. But certainly, you do not need to be Jewish or African American or part of an oppressed people or class to appreciate the significance of the biblical account of the suffering and redemption of the children of Israel, of the long, slow struggle of Black Americans for freedom and equality, or of the modern miracle of the return of diverse and far-flung Jewish communities to their original homeland in Israel. These stories all point to the same universal truth, that freedom, equality, dignity, and self-determination are part of the divine plan for all humanity. Over the past couple of months, Reverend Jim and Reverend Lisa have taken you through the deep spiritual process of personal renewal, looking inward, identifying what holds you back and no longer serves you, letting it go, finding your inner truth, and taking the necessary steps to bring you to your own best self, your own promised land. Today, I challenge you to look outwards towards the fulfillment of this divine purpose for others. Just as the children of Israel were repeatedly exhorted to empathize with those who, as they had been, were excluded, vulnerable, or oppressed. So each of us is called to recognize the divine spark in others, especially those most different from us, so that we can truly see them and hear their stories. Only then will we be ready to work, even fight, to bring God's purpose and potential more fully to fruition for our neighbors, our communities, and our world. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will. my pleasure to invite Shira back up. And we're hoping that everybody knows this classic spiritual and will join with us. When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. Then God told Moses what to do. Let my people go. To lead the Hebrew children through. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. As Israel stood by the waterside, let my people go. God's commanded to divide, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. When they had reached the other shore, let my people go. They let the song of triumph soar. Let my people go. Everybody now, go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Tell Pharaoh to let my people go. So we'd like to conclude with Circle Chant, written by Linda Hirschhorn, who is another magnificent singer-songwriter, well-known and beloved to many in the Jewish community who adore music and especially a cappella music. And again, I think you'll pick it up very quickly, and we definitely want you to join together with us. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Please join us. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us in prison. Circle for relief. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. For the children of our children. Keep the circle.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Am I on here? Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Now's the time in our service where we have the opportunity to give back to this ministry. We know that as we give, so do we receive, and it is through your generous gifts that Unity of Charlotte continues to be a light in this community. So know that there are many ways to give. We can do that in many different ways, online, and then again here today. So join us in, making me dizzy here. Join us in our prosperity blessing. So out loud, joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I see. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. We are light. The love of God enfolds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God watches over us. We are presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.